Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's May 19th, 2020. I'm over in the work area. This week the temperature has been improving. We're getting more seasonable weather. So it's been a real pleasant change in our weather systems here. And my health has continued to steadily improve. I still do a lot of coughing at different points throughout the day. And I'm still bringing up small amounts of phlegm from my lower airways. Pulse oximetry, the thing that you put on your finger to measure how well your lungs are oxygenating your red blood cells, is up to 97-98%, which is really good compared to where it was. So overall, I'm pretty excuse me. Overall, I'm feeling much better. I've been able to get quite a few things. C and I have been working outdoors, working in the western garden plot. We posted a video the other day about transplanting and replanting the small one-year-old blueberry plants. We've gotten cabbage and cauliflower planted. Thea's in the process of planting the scarlet runner beans, which really are favorite beans, so she's getting those started soon. We've been doing a lot of weeding in the various garden beds as well. But today what I thought I'd do excuse me, is throw on the helmet cam. Hopefully it's going to work. I tried shooting a video the other day, but since the sun's out right now, I thought what I do is take a walk through the food forest. Hopefully the camera angle will be okay so you'll be able to see what I'm actually looking at. And I thought we'd take a walk through the first food forest, and if this works out okay, on another video I'll do the second food forest, and on a third video I'll do the third food forest. And a lot of the trees are either flowering now, the fruit and nut trees, and not all of them, and some of them are beginning to leaf out as well, so that's pretty interesting. We also have some of the root zone, like the Comfrey, the dynamic accumulators coming up, the lemon balm, the oregano, all of those sorts of things. So I'll try to remember to point those out as we go through the first food forest. So I'm going to throw the helmet cam on now, and we'll see how this works out and take it from there. Okay, I'm out here by the bioremediation canal system in Pond 3, and the part of the first food forest really encompasses everything just to the left side of the driveway up here. And everything going more westernly, and we'll go over that in just a minute. What I thought I'd start by looking at right here is our asparagus bed, which you can see some of the asparagus here, but there's lots of weeds. So Thea's going to come out and harvest some of the asparagus that's all around amongst some of the various weeds, the horsetail. There we got some burdock as well, and it goes right around this area. And once it's harvested, I'll come down and use the flail mower and go ahead and flame weed it, and try and flame weed it every couple of days as well. Here's one of the younger trees. This one's 2 or 3 years old. I think this is 2 years old. I haven't started training this one yet, so I've got a lot of pruning to do on this one. I'll be wiping off these new small buds that are coming up after I decide which form I'm going to want these limbs to come out in. And it'll be more obvious when we look at some of the other ones. On this pergola here, we have a hardy kiwi. This is one that I started from one of the other hardy kiwis over there, and I got to train this one to go along the margins on the underside. I've learned that having it go over the top of the pergola makes things much more challenging. Crabapple here, this is one of the cherries here, one of the cherry trees, really flowering out very nicely. This one really makes delicious cherries. But we've got to get to that one before all the birds get to them. They usually beat us. This one I've got to prune back because I got some dead here. This is our Illinois mulberry tree here. So this is one of the ones I started from hardwood cutting from that Illinois mulberry tree right over there. Here's another one of our cherry trees right here. I have a little more pruning to do on this one. This here is pond 3 with an island in the center. We have lots of different herbs in this small section right in here, but hyssop has really been taking it over, and you can see some volunteer raspberry bushes. So this cherry tree here fruits after that one there, and then this one fruits third. Here we've got one of our apples, a plum, an apple. Now these are the ones recently I posted a video showing some of the pruning that I was doing. Really aggressive pruning, and you could see from some of the cuttings here, this apple tree. And this is one that I'll probably end up grafting in the future. Here's one of the pawpaw trees. I'm going to do a little bit of pruning with this one here just so I can try to protect it from the deer. A pear, that's a Bartlett pear right there. And so down in here we have a lemon balm here, a honey locust right here. This is an Orleans antique apple tree here. Some more lemon balm right in here. And this is a Colette pear, I believe. Here's some horseradish here, kind of hard to see in amongst some of the weeds. Another one of the apples that I really aggressively pruned. This is all oregano down in this area here. And some of the aronias. We have a couple of different types of aronia berry plants here. More oregano. A pawpaw here, oregano, another aronia berry, oregano, an apple tree here, another aronia, and then the pawpaw, and again oregano in between each one of these trees. Over there, I'm not going to go over in that area where many of the flowers are. There's thyme in between all of those areas. And here's the last tree that I pruned in the video, the one that I actually went through step by step. This apple tree, this is one of the Mac varieties. The buds are just starting to open for some of the flowers here. But again, as the new buds start to emerge, like this one here, I've got to just rub them right off because I don't want them coming inward. I want to keep it nice and open. And I've explained before how I do this differently, and you'll be seeing in some of the other videos how I'm going to be doing the pruning. Now, on the other side of the driveway, we have multiple rows here. Excuse me. So I think what I'll do is just so this apple tree here, I've got lots of pruning and training to do. What I'm going to want to do is have several inches between the height and decide, do I want to have some of these ones that the deer always come through and browse, or do I want to actually start it off at about here and put a sheath around the base of the trunk to try and protect it, and then choose which direction I want each one of these limbs to come off in and get rid of the rest. So like right down here, this is all way too tight. This is too tight. So I'll make a video about pruning this one. These ones I came through and did heavy duty pruning. This is one of the, this is a peach. This is a, now one of the things I should say is that this peach produces a flavor that I really don't care for, and you can see there's water sprouts. So this is a water sprout shooting up. Now I haven't gotten over here yet, but I'll end up pruning this one off right about here so that this limb goes up and I'll still be able to drive underneath it and get to the fruit with a ladder rather easily. I don't want limbs coming off into my path areas here the way that they grew out before, so that I can get down in here without banging my head when I'm mowing the lawn. So as you could see, there was a limb that came out right over here, and I wanted that removed. So as I'm planning for doing the pruning, there's still got to be more pruning being done on this one to modify the shape. But as I'm going through it, I really want to pay close attention to where the limbs are in space and where I'm driving through. These ones, let me just check this. So this is a Hosta Berry, and I've got several Hosta Berries. We'll look at some of those in a couple moments. I have a rebar holding them up pretty straight. With our high winds, some of these buggers, when they're young, rebar here holding them up straight. And when they're young, they can really get knocked over and snap pretty easily. A pawpaw right here. Let's see. Those are all black currants. I'm sorry, this is a red currant. No, I was wrong. Black currant, black currant. And these are 4 black currants that are probably 6 years old now. And I'll be talking about where I'm going to transplant these ones to for a living fence, and how I'm going to propagate a whole bunch of them from even these large ones without doing hardwood cuttings. I'll be doing separation of the plants. Another apple tree here. This one's got to be pruned. Here's one of the drawbacks to using the tomato cage here. We have all these bars here, and you could see this spot right here where the bark got ripped off, and it actually worked into some of the hardwood on this one from banging into this. So the way I corrected it was to put a rebar right next to the trunk of the tree and use some zip ties to hold it so that it didn't continually bang up against the wire. This is another plum. This is another Santa Rosa plum. These are the ones I won't be buying anymore. They're so susceptible to the black rot and brown rot, unfortunately. These are some of the native blueberry bushes here, the Highbush blueberry bushes, and they're planted in and amongst all of these trees here. Another apple tree here. I'll be doing some more pruning with this one, hopefully this week. One of the thornless honeyberries here. Another blueberry bush here. Here is, this is a nectarine. I did some heavy-duty pruning trying to get the main limbs off in this area here. I've got lots of fine pruning to do with it also. These are a couple more. These are more black currants right here. This plum, unfortunately, I didn't get it straight before, and it's a dwarf. Unfortunately, it's a misplaced dwarf. It's a delicious small plums, but you could see the trunk is leaning into this area here. So I've got to do some work to try and get that one straightened back up. Various apples. I won't go through all the different types of apples. Peaches. I'm sorry. Yes, a peach. These are red currants down in this area here. You see how there's really tremendous number of flowers here. The bees are really having a good time. This is one of the blushing star peaches. I did some heavy-duty pruning in the past on this one. This is one of my favorite ones. I have a lot more pruning to do on this one as well. What is this one here? You know, I have to go back and research. One of the labels is off on this one, so I'm not sure who this guy is, but this guy needs to be pruned as well. And again, I've got some of these limbs coming off in the same direction, and I want to correct for that. So if, you know, this one looks like a good prospect, so I'd be getting rid of some of these, but hopefully I'll make a video on how I prune these. Then this is another nectarine. I still have some of the pits I got to get off from before. All of these trees all had that extensive deer rub. Lots of damage to them. They've done their best for healing. I don't expect that they're going to last too awfully long. They're certainly, in my opinion, much more susceptible to disease as a result of all the injury and the stress they've gone through. This is another nectarine. Again, I didn't get all the fruit off last season, unfortunately. And again, I have more pruning to do. I did the big bulk pruning, as you could see, and I'm keeping this one in line instead of the limbs coming off into the main pathway here. And again, a location like this, we could have embedded bark, which is going to cause this tree as it grows to be a problem. So this isn't going to be one that I'm going to keep forever, but you can see the deer rub all the locations that they did damage in the past. Another peach tree here. These are all Hosta berries in this location. Who is this guy here? This is one of the... Oh, this is one of the apricots. Then we get down into some of the different European pears in here, cherry tree, more apples, the comfrey, and I forgot to point out the comfrey and some of the other ground cover down there. The comfrey in this location, Highbush cranberry here, Honeycrisp apple really has to be pruned. This is another mulberry tree here. More pears. What is cage here's moved around some. How did that happen? What is this pear here? Kefir pear. Another apple right here. And a cherry. Another apple. Lots of pruning that's got to be done. I'm way behind. These are some of my Asian pears here. I really have fallen in love with the Asian pears. Comfrey just starting to come up in here. Down here, the comfrey plant's coming up. This is a honey locust here as well. What is this one here? This is I'm not sure what this apple actually is. A ginkgo. I've got to prune this one yet. And down here, what do we have here? A Liberty apple. Now this one flowers pretty darn early, this apple does. And this is all a tight knot, and that's from being in the white plastic tree guards. And so I've got to prune this one out. And see, this is all potential damage. All of this where these limbs are crossing here, lots of damage here. So I'll do some pruning and I'll use the limb separators on this. Another one of the Asian pears. This is one of my absolute favorites, the Chojuro. Boy, are these delicious. Sort of a cross between a apple and a pear. Another apple here. Lots of pruning to do. Highbush cranberry here. Another Asian pear here. Highbush cranberry. And another apple. Let's see here. This one. This is one of the persimmons here. Another apple here. I'm in the process, and you can see the comfrey's coming up all along the ground in this area. There is a Highbush cranberry someplace in this spot here. Comfrey coming up. There's a Highbush cranberry right there. An apple here. Highbush cranberry. Another apple here. Honey locust here needs to be pruned. Pawpaw here. What do we have here? This, I think this is one of my, well, let's see, there's a label right here. This is one of the sweet cherries. What do we have here? I'm not sure what this one is. I have to come back and check. This is a Persimmons here. Another, what is this one here? This is a Snow Sweet Apple Dwarf. Another apple. This is an orange quince here. Let's see, another orange quince right inside of this tube from a root cutting I got from that orange quince. And an orange quince here. This is one of those Chojor Asian pears. This is another type of Asian pear. I've got to do some pruning on this one. This is terrible. And some training with it. But boy, I'll tell you, these really make delicious pears. Some of these really took, when the deer rub came through, they damaged the main tree, but they are sending up their shoots from, I believe, from the main trunk, not from the rootstock. This is a red bud. And of course, the red bud's another nitrogen fixer. And who is this guy here? This is a Plumcot or Plumcot, and again, here's damage caused by this limb banging up against this cage. So the cages aren't perfect. They need to be supported, the trees, if they're going to be inside of these cages so they aren't making contact. So with the high winds, you can even see some injuries right here. This is one of my blushing star peach trees, really delicious. Lots of pruning to get the limbs coming off from this side and going into the aisleways there. Another persimmons here. Asian pears all down this side. And we'll go over to the almond area as well. Now we're by pond 4 over here. Crabapple here. This is another cross between an apricot and a plum. And who's in here? I'm not sure who is in here. I may have had one of my baby persimmons in here. This is an apple tree here. Lots of pruning to do on this one. Another apple here. Lots of comfrey coming up. I have to break this one loose. This is a pawpaw here, just getting ready to leaf out. Another pawpaw here. I can't remember the name of this berry bush here. Now this is another one of the, and this is really, I've got to do a lot of pruning on this one. I actually wanted to take some scion wood off of this and graft it on some of the other trees. Maybe next spring I'll be able to do that. But this is also a cross between an apricot and plum. Another apple tree here, comfrey all along in here. Here we have along trumpet vines in here and rose bushes on that trellis. Comfrey down here, gooseberries. Gooseberries. A cherry tree here needs to be pruned and trained. Gooseberries, apple tree, comfrey, gooseberries. This is another, is this another cross? Yes, this is a cross between an apricot and a plum as well. More apples over there. White birch here. And what do I have here? So this is another one of the black walnuts that I'll have to go ahead and transplant. This is rootstock. So I've got to cut this one back. So this was a Dapper Dandy apricot plum cross where the grafted section died, and so I've got to deal with this. Really nice rootstock so far, but I'll have to graft onto this one. More apples. This is one of the starburst honey locust, comfrey along the ground here. This is a Honeycrisp apple here, comfrey. One of the flowering pear, non-producing ones. Here I've got another black walnut that I've got to go ahead and transplant to another location. Another one of the cherry trees. What do we have here? This is another cherry tree. This is one of the apples. These are all Hosta berries all around this one. These are lemon balm down here, large lemon balms, Hosta berries. I won't go all the way down here, but more Hosta berries, a mulberry tree here, big mulberry and apple down there. This is one of the deer rub, badly beaten ones that I did some aggressive pruning with before, but it's one of our plum trees, early flowering plum trees. I've got several of this type. Another apple. This is a peach tree here. This is one that limb came off, snapped this tree in 3 places, so I've got to do some pruning and replace fix this cage as well. This is one of the peaches that actually tastes really nice as well. Let's walk over in this area here before we get. And throughout this area, so we got currants down in here. Mention, all right, I already talked about this. So this is one of the peach trees, like a blushing star one. Here you could see the damage from the deer rub. Down below here, the black walnut that I talked about. This is, did I already talk about this one? Oh no, this is another one of the rootstock from one of the apricot plum mixes that I had before. So I'll be cutting this one off and grafting onto this. This is a an apricot here, catnip, comfrey, hopefully catnip, comfrey. This is a peach tree. Really got to do some pruning on this one. One of the really nice apples here. Down below here we have these are Hosta berries, lots of comfrey. That's horseradish down there, horseradish right over there, horseradish right over there. Some places around here I've got garlic beneath them and chives. This is one of the cherries that I'm not really a big fan of the flavor as well. This will be one that I graft onto. The another peach tree here. I'm sorry, an apple tree here. Sorry about that. Currants down below here, small currants down here. Highbush blueberry bushes. These are some of our blueberry bushes that we've Patriot, Blue Gold, and what are the other ones? Patriot, Blue Gold, and I can't remember the third type. So these have all got to be pruned. You'd see lots of the sections. We took the green netting off. We're going to fertilize each one of these. Over there we have peaches, more apples, honey locusts, more highbush blueberry bushes, apple tree there, highbush blueberry bush, honey locust, comfrey all along the base here. This is one of our magnolias, a pink one, flowers very early in the season. The hives over there. We did lose one hive recently. I removed it from this location right here. It was one that was just jam-packed with bees. So we had 2 days where we could see bees dead in front of the each one of the hives, and that's natural that we'll have the bees coming out and removing the dead bees from the hive. But this one actually had probably 6 inches deep and probably 2 feet wide of dead bees loaded with pollen and all that. Looked absolutely healthy. So I did clean that out, and unfortunately the bees had gotten into some area where they'd gotten into a pesticide, and it had such a profound effect on them that they died, and they completely plugged up their entrance and exit. So I took the hive apart and went through it. The bees, the brood comb looked fantastic. And no hive beetles, no tracheal mite, no other signs of disease in the hive at all. I suspect that it was a result of wherever these bees were going to, they were going to a location that had a really potent pesticide that when they brought it back, they died. Now the young bees were emerging from the brood comb, but since I wanted to really break it down and examine the comb thoroughly, I ended up not using any of that brood comb in any of the other hives. So the other hives seem to be doing pretty well, and so we'll see how things work out. This is one of my delicious smaller apples right here. Really, really wonderful blueberry plants in here. Canadian hemlock. And I still can't remember the name of this particular one. Which ones are these? Is there a label here? Yeah, these are the Patriot. I can't think of the other ones up there at the other end. It's one of the ones we've got started. This is one of the apples that I really did heavy pruning on the other day that I did not record video. I have some more pruning to do yet. And I already walked through this area. Let's go down to the area where the almond trees are planted here. So walking through a swale that comes from pond 5 going to pond 6 down there on the other side of the solar panels. I'm working on some of the big hugelkultur systems from years ago down and back right now. Some apple trees here and another plum tree there. Here we have the almond forested area here. So these are a Hall's Hardy almonds that do pretty well here. Let's see, some of our transplanted Highbush blueberry bushes here. Is another almond tree here. So the almond trees, you can see they're already flowered out. Blueberries are in the process of starting to open up there, some of the flowers now. Another almond here. I've got some pruning to do with all of these. I put these all in mounds because I'll be bringing this whole area up higher in elevation. Another almond here. It has to be pruned. Blueberry bush. Blueberry bush here. This is one of the original almonds. Last fall I showed how I was harvesting everything from it. Blueberry bush, almonds, apple tree, blueberry bush, comfrey down at the bottom, burdock, blueberries, almond tree here, and you can see here again the damage caused by the wind going up against here, and my supports over there broke, I could see. So I've got to change this system. I'll be removing this cage and putting a one of the white tree guards around it so that it isn't going to get any. This will heal up. All of this area is trying. This area here has been re-damaged with these recent windstorms, but this will all callus over pretty well. Comfrey in this area. That's a pawpaw down here. I think this is one of the mulberries. Yeah, this is a Russian mulberry here. Blueberry, another pawpaw here, comfrey, burdock, blueberry, almond tree here. And you can see the flowers are just starting to finish right now. We'll see how well they do. Another apple tree here. More Hall's Hardy almonds over there. Blueberry bushes. More blueberry bushes. All these have to be pruned. Almond tree. Almond tree here. Apple tree here. Another almond tree there. Blueberry bushes there. Blueberry bush. Comfrey. Another almond tree here. What do we have here down here? There should be some lemon balm coming up in some of these areas. This one I got to get a tree guard around. This is an almond tree here. More almond trees, blueberry. More blueberry bushes. Almond tree here. 3 almond trees here with blueberry bushes interplanted. Lots of weeds coming up in these areas. So I've got lots of mulching and work to do. Again, 3 more almond trees here interplanted with blueberry bushes. Lots of pruning and work to do here. Hopefully I'll get to that in the future. Well, so that's the first food forest, a walk through it. I know it's a little jumbled. Hopefully I'll get better at it as I describe the second food forest. When I walk through here with people, I spend more time talking about each area. I thought I'd mention this. So air pruning beds. Now I had set these up so that so this is an air pruning bed, and air pruning bed here. Persimmons here. I believe that the black locusts are in here, and these are all of the acorns for the oak trees here. Over here have the almond seeds in here, and I tried to salvage any of the persimmons that were in that bucket right there ahead of us. What ended up happening was I had lots of black walnuts. Well, the squirrels got to it. They were all over in this area. So I ended up, removing all of the black locusts from all those buckets there. There's the hive that I ended up taking apart. And I fenced this off. And of course, I used the 2x3. Squirrels just pop right through it. So they're in here still going through all of the plants in here, and I found some old chicken wire, got that covered up as well with some wire ties. I haven't seen any of them in there since. Well, that's a walk through the first food forest. I didn't feel comfortable as I was going through it describing everything, and there's a bunch of things I'm sure I missed. And so that was my first attempt at going through and designing, laying out, and pruning, and deciding which trees to put in which locations, which companion plants to put in with which trees as well. And I didn't get everything right. I got a lot of things wrong. And what information I learned as a result of my first food forest, I applied that information to the second food forest, and then what I learned from the second food forest, I'm applying to the third food forest, and when I start the fourth food forest, well, hopefully I'll have learned enough where things just keep getting better and better. As you can see, planning for access for vehicles, the size of the trees, how to protect the trees, whether we're using the plastic tree guards or using the cages that we use for tomato cages and the other trees there, with the high winds and the damage that can happen to the trees. And we're trying to protect the trees from the deer rub because the deer are here all the time as well. So there's lots of challenges that we face throughout the process. And we find out that some trees that are supposed to do very well here as some of the crosses between apricots and plums, which are really nice and tasty, they don't hold up as well. The rootstocks do great, so we'll go ahead and graft onto that rootstock some of the varieties that do tolerate this climate as well. So sorry about it being so jumbled and me not knowing each one of the different apple trees as I was going through it and all. But that's a first look at the food forest at this point. You can see a lot of the very heavy duty pruning we've done so far in some of the trees, and I have a lot more pruning to do. Some of it will get neglected this season because right now I've got to get the beds ready for getting the gardens set as well. And the air pruning system, I never got really sick and wasn't able to get to that. So each year I'm going to try and learn from the mistakes, and hopefully you can gain some information from looking at what we've done here as well. If you found this video of value, please give us a thumbs up. If you want to comment and share your experiences or thoughts that you have, certainly that's always welcome as well. Take care of yourselves, folks, and have a great day. Bye-bye now.